Hello, my friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family. Thank you guys for joining us.
Thanks, you guys, for coming in again. It's great to see everybody. Hi, Nicole. Hi, Nuclear Quantum Lasers. Pew, pew, pew. Oh, look, there's Sassy Susie. She's feeling facetious today, it seems.
Oh, she is a sassy one. Hey, Rodzor, good to see you, Stack. Lots of stuff going on, obviously. You guys caught the first video today, which, it raises a good question. Not everybody's being tested for this. So how do we know how far along it is here and in other countries? What we're seeing, with this particular virus is some people have this reaction that, to me, it looks totally different than a typical virus. Totally different. There's a lot to cover here. But, you have people progressing in a similar fashion to most that have a flu virus, where they're just progressively getting sicker and sicker. And then you have some, like we showed you a video off of Twitter of, I think he was either a security guard, and he was just looking at his laptop, and all of a sudden he collapses, and then he's trembling in fits. And it just doesn't look like the normal flu to me. And we went a little bit earlier today. We're going to get some more stuff accomplished around here. We have like an incredible mess here right now to go through. MJ says he lives in Ireland, bets it's there already. A good chance. I mean, when we look at what they're telling us, these red dots are growing and going to cover the entire country soon. However, still they're only saying 31,530. Now they have a new category, 61 others, which matches the number of people sick on that cruise ship.
Yeah. The thing that we saw with the guy who is seizing, we've seen a handful of videos where people are seizing, and to me it reminds me of, like, it could be like a nerve agent, something attacking someone's nerves. It just doesn't seem like the flu.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, some of the videos that we're seeing, it just doesn't seem normal. So you guys been touching on, I see in the chat room already, some of the things we're going to bring up. Let's see. Let's jump over here first. Royal Caribbean cruise ship docks in New Jersey. 4 Chinese passengers are taken to hospital for coronavirus testing by medics who were not wearing any masks, while 23 others are screened by the CDC. And there's photos of them in a line getting off the ship, and nobody's wearing a mask. Here you see one of the people rushed off. Where's your masks, guys?
Right.
Yeah, how prepared are we? Is this going to be a total joke? Because, if a RO rate is around 4, we're looking at 4 people here, so that's 16, and then it's just going to go on and on and on. And Anthem of the Seas, I've walked by that ship before. I've cruised. I've been lucky to cruise in my life several times, and it's a wonderful experience. But man, oh man, now is not the time to cruise. No, not now. And one lady made a comment that her sister just died. I was looking in the comments, and she felt so bad about not going to the funeral, but she just couldn't get herself to go on the plane. And you know what? I think she's being smart.
Mm-hmm. And thank you so much, Alan Corner. Appreciate it a lot. And the gal, she didn't want to travel to go to the funeral, and she was feeling bad. And if she's listening, please don't feel bad. It's called self-preservation, and it's okay. And your loved one will completely understand.
And of course, we all have our own different take on things like that. But as I shared, I believe we are in touch with our loved ones just simply by thinking of them, and I've experienced so many different things in my life that, I know life doesn't end when we're out of the body. I just know it. It's a knowing. And, so I think that she was being wise, really, in doing this. So here, boy, that map is getting busier, isn't it? This is what they're showing out of the Daily Mail. And Japan, 86 cases. Japan's growing very fast as far as their outbreak. Taiwan, 16. You see Hong Kong, 24. Macau, 10. South Korea, 24. Thailand, 25. Germany, 13. Saying Russia has 2. North Korea, 1. Canada, 7. U.S. stuck on 12. Interesting. But again, how many people are they really testing for this? So how do you even know? And then we see Singapore with 33, Malaysia with 14, Vietnam with 12, Australia has 15, and worldwide again, 31,527 they're showing here, 636 deaths in China, 2 elsewhere. It's definitely scary times, and this is a stat that will make you not want to go to the hospital. 41% of the patients studied who were hospitalized with the coronavirus infected pneumonia are suspected to have gotten the illness through hospital-related transmissions.
Isn't that interesting? So if you go to the hospital, it just shows how our system is so inside out. Like, you go to a doctor to get well, or the hospital to get well, and you end up getting sicker. You go to a lawyer or the court for justice, and it's all crooked. It's all backwards, and it's all upside down. And I think I was really questioning at first, how much of this was true and how much of it's not true. But I mean, now I know personally, extremely personally, people who are forbidden to go to Singapore, and people who are there, they're on the ground, boots on the ground, and are seeing this for themselves. So it's becoming quite the reality, oh my gosh, thank you, Michelle. Okay, no joke. Tell your doctor you have unprotected. And okay, that works. I'm not sure exactly what all that means, but it's on there, and thank you for your support.
So, we're looking at this, right? And that people that are locked up under quarantine in China, the rumors have come through. They've seen people hauled off. So, they're not going to want to go, because chances are, if they're not sick, there's a good chance they will be sick. And then, of course, you have the government, which wants to lock everything down. And what do you guys think? Do you think that the CCP is going to make it out of this alive? Do you think the Chinese Communist Party is going to make it out of this whole event intact, or do you think they're going to fall? Interesting stuff going on. It's horrible what's happening to these poor people over there. Just absolutely horrible. Yeah, up to a month incubation. So Tasha says October 18th was the first release. First case reported December 7th. So, that gets us about 7 weeks, right? It's almost 7 weeks. Nicole says depends on the people. Yeah, I think there will come a time when they will get more and more mad. Mind Game says it's staged. What aspect of it's staged? I mean, all the videos that we're seeing staged? Every single video staged? Is it just the thing? I mean, I think most of us think this is not a naturally occurring virus. I think most of us agree that this is something that's manufactured. More and more evidence all the time showing that. Hey, Anderson is saying to get a pneumonia vaccine. Personally, I'll never take any vaccine, period. And, I haven't, but that's me. Everybody has to make up their own decisions. So, this is one of the most brutal things I've ever watched. And this is out of Russian market, who I believe is actually a redo of Zero Hedge, which was taken down by Twitter. Now you're not allowed to leave the city. The government loves you and takes care of you. In a new special hospital where the research team will try a new drug on you. And this is absolutely brutal. They grab this poor lady, pull her out of this car, and it does look like she has a mask on. And honestly, it doesn't look like she is alive at the end of the video. And the angle that her neck is at, it looks like they actually broke it. And this is somebody that watches a lot of MMA and has been involved in martial arts, and it was just a savage act of just bestiality, and it was just horrible. I mean, four guys just grab her, yank her out, and then when the ambulance comes, her body's not moving at all as they pick her up and put her in and take her away. And she was, from what I could see, she was wearing a mask. I think the person in the passenger seat wasn't. But just absolute brutality. It's just, completely disgusting.
Yeah, it is. I was watching her, and it's just like you can almost see the lifelessness kind of run through her body. And we saw another one where they were pulling a guy out of a room, and then we saw videos where these people are trying to make the best of it, and they're in these buildings, and they have complete control over these people. I mean, they really must live in a lot of fear to be controlled like that. But then again, a lot of us, we can be controlled too if you just put us in a space of fear. Yeah, see, this guy, I don't know why he wasn't biting somebody.
So how sick is this guy if he's strong enough to hold off 4 guys and they end up eventually dragging him out of the apartment and take him away, and who knows what happens to him. I gotta feel there's a lot more going on here than meets the eye. And this is what we were talking about with, is this something different? As this says right here, it's more like chemical poisoning. It reminds me of what we saw in Syria when innocent people were getting, gassed. The nerve agent, that's what it reminds me of. And we've seen more than one case of this. I gotta feel it's like something more along those lines. And it seems that there's more than one thing going on here. And I wonder how many things are truly released right now on the population over there and, everywhere else as well. And so this brings up a good point. Citizen journalists covering the virus outbreak from Wuhan goes missing. And this is talking about a few of them, but there's a lot. We've seen that. Last night we were looking at videos showing the cops coming by and checking people's cell phones, and then taking them away, dragging them away. And, this is the danger of a society in which the population is not armed and has no way of protecting themselves when, the law is going way above and beyond the law. And, that's part of what in my view, the country was set up with the founding fathers, the whole Second Amendment too. It's not like, it's a difficult thing. Obviously, people need to be quarantined when they're sick. But at the same time, some of the things we're watching and seeing and hearing about, it seems more than just isolating people that are ill.
It does. There's like many layers of information here, and I feel the deceit too. I see a lot of people saying in the chat, it looks staged. It looks staged. That's what I was thinking in the beginning too, and maybe some of it is, but even if a little bit is, there's so much deception. But I believe the virus is very real, and it should be treated as such.
So Kelly LeFay says, anybody see any recovered people talking yet? Not talking, but, like going and leaving the hospital and waving like, they're Miss America, with a bouquet of flowers and doing that. It looked completely staged and everything. Coco Blade says, who released this bioweapon on the Chinese? We the People says, do your own research. Yeah, most definitely. I mean, all those things are good statements, good questions. It looks like it was, there's a lot of evidence to say that the Chinese smuggled it out and maybe it leaked accidentally. Or if we're really, really being critical about that, it looks like there's maybe too much evidence pointing to that fact. And maybe that's, what they want people to piece together. And so Scott New York says we need to hear from them. Yeah, but how? I mean, they're locked away, and as I was saying, when we see that one video I was showing you, that girl was just murdered. She was murdered. It's brutal and it's wrong. And of course, you always have people that when they get into this situation, a lot of times people that gravitate towards positions of power can be very sadistic. Some of them are the bullies, and it's just kind of a mindset of some of the ones that love to impose will on others. It's just really, as Coco Blade says, Bill Gates and his satanic Illuminati friends. Yeah. So what's it going to look like here is the question. Can you see people being pulled out of cars like that poor young Chinese girl was pulled out of the car here in the U.S.? Can you see that happening in this country? What do you guys think of that? Or is it going to be a different case here? Is it going to be something totally, totally different here? Koki says chaos, martial law, FEMA. Yeah. Confirmed coronavirus in Houston, Texas. Yeah, America under medical martial law. It's all interesting. See, I don't think it could go down here like it did there. Because, the people are being totally controlled there. They have no way to, to really do anything. And the UK is kind of like that too. I mean, Hopi NG says, if this is fake, it's a psyop that's beyond an act of war, requiring much death and retaliation. If it's real, then obviously deaths will occur. Prayers and good vibes are needed either way. Very true. Yeah, but looking at how, and I've seen a ton, me and Cindy have seen a ton of videos in which it feels like people are being just brutally attacked by these powers that be. And it just feels ridiculous. And so I really think it's going to be a totally different case when it happens here. And I think the Chinese government, I feel like, there's a good likelihood that they're taking this opportunity as well to, as Cindy would say, stone two birds with one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Stone two birds with one joint.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Taking care of more than one thing at one time. So when you look at like what makes the United States a little different, and we had talked also about the potential that this is in reality World War III, the opening shots of World War III. If this was perhaps a preemptive shot that nobody could really tell for sure what it is, and if this was some sort of bio attack as a harbinger of something that's going to be much bigger. When we look at gun ownership, interesting here, 2018 Small Arms Survey reported that there are over 1 billion small arms distributed globally. 1 billion, right? Of which 857 million are in civilian hands. That's curious, right? So 85% of small arms are in civilian hands. The Small Arms Survey stated that U.S. civilians alone accounted for 393 million, about 46% of worldwide total civilian-held firearms. So half of the arms, the small arms are in the hands of private citizens are in the United States. And there's actually more than one gun per person in the U.S. So that amounts to about 120.5 firearms for every 100 residents. So the U.S. is something a little different. And when you look at this as well, the world's armed forces control about 133 million of the global total of small arms, of which over 43% belong to two countries, the Russian Federation, 30.3 million, and China, 27.5 million. Law enforcement agencies control about 23 million of the global total of small arms. So when you think about it, what is the most powerful army in the world? You could actually say the U.S. citizens, or, the citizens of the U.S. when you look at it that way. And that might be numbers that boggle your mind. Did you guys realize that?
And that's what separates us from them, and it keeps us safe. And no wonder they're trying so hard to do a gun grab, because that would totally take our power away from us. And that's why I think things would be so much different here than they are in China. We're not as easily controlled. We have more information at our disposal, but we need to keep it that way with different channels like our channel and other channels like us that keep spreading information and spreading the truth. And they are making that more and more difficult, but I think we're getting the edge. I think more people are catching on than not.
I think so too. And, I'm glad. So, again, that's what makes things a little bit different here. And I'm very much pro First Amendment, obviously, and I'm pro Second Amendment as well. And yet I would love to see the U.S. pull back its military from around the world and just simply focus on, fixing things in this country, as we've talked about as well. So we're hearing about Vindman escorted from White Bliss by security moments ago. There's a lot of things going on. I was going to include some stuff in this live in regards to some corporate power changes going on. There's a lot of things going on, but it's going to be a video all unto itself. There's a lot going on behind the scenes here. There's a ton going on behind the scenes. So jumping over here, we had talked about that, 41% get infected in the hospital. And so now we have 14 more million people in a city lockdown. So you got 400 million total people that are on lockdown, under quarantine. And that's larger than the entire U.S. population, which is about 337 million. 400 million people on quarantine and lockdown. That's huge. That's huge. And we see President Trump's reaction.
God. Isn't that but most appropriate, you guys? That's a good one. He's been giggling at this one all day. He just watches it over and giggles. It's so cute. It's so cute. Yeah, I mean, there's like I said, we probably won't know the gist of this for years and years to come. There's so many different layers of delusion and lies and just things going on. And this is such a good time that we really have to dig our heels in and take care of ourselves, take care of number one, because I promise you, they're not gonna. They're out to control us. So we need to take it upon ourselves to do what we can to keep ourselves safe and healthy.
And here we see Taiwan news. Wuhan could now have 300,000 coronavirus infections. So says another study. So, that's 10 times the official amount. And reality is it might be 100 times is more accurate. As we were talking about last night, and we were talking to Raven about all this. And, guys, I have not heard back from David Dubine yet. And hopefully everything is good. Although it could very well be that he's in quarantine as well.
Yeah, that would make sense that he'd be in quarantine. And I do know someone whose company's forbidden him to fly to Singapore. And then I do have a family that I know of in Singapore. And so I know that, as far as this being a psyop or real, that part of it is real. People here in the states that work for certain companies are forbidden to fly there because of this outbreak, which is unnerving. And as far as what are we to believe, follow your heart, follow your gut. I take a look around and I see what's in front of me, and I do what I feel is appropriate for me, and I'm gonna listen to the things that I'm hearing out. So I'm just gonna play it safe, because it's just not worth catching this. It's just not worth it. I've fought off plenty of flus, plenty of colds, but this one seems like it can really take you out. And then after that, we're not so sure that you actually completely get rid of it because of all the things that are cut and pasted inside of it.
Exactly. And look at this. Look at these trending charts here. This is insane. So what we're looking at is blue is China, and of course they're underreporting by a mile. Green here is Singapore, and look at Japan. Japan's not in good shape here. Thailand is in red. This is exponential, and it's just going straight up, guys. This is incredible what we're seeing here. And here we see Dr. Eric again. Many epidemiologists and people who are following this outbreak closely are assuming it's probably quite a bit more widespread than the case counts suggest. Most definitely. And that was Michael Mina, Assistant Professor of Epidemiology at Harvard, T.H. Chan School of Public Health. Number of people is expected to climb. What are scientists learning about the way the virus spreads? And it's not good. To say the least, it's not good how this is spreading. And especially when we look at those numbers coming out of Japan and Singapore, it's pretty scary. 29%. That's the percentage of the 138 coronavirus infected patients who are actually infected medical staff in just one Wuhan hospital. So about 1 in every 3 is the healthcare workers. Obviously, that's going to make things worse the farther on down the line. And then when it gets to other countries, you're going to have a lot of people that they're just going to want to go run and hide, and they're not going to want to help others as well. And then you'll have people that will knowingly pretty much put their heads on the chopping block and will do it for others.
Right. Yeah. I mean, this is just absolutely insane. And then there's this. People hoard food, water supplies amid I keep wanting to say carnivorous.
Corona. Not
the
carnivorous.
Carnivorous, like cannibal. Oh my gosh, that's a play on words. That's pretty disgusting. But could you imagine having to hoard things like just basic stuff, like toilet paper, paper, just anything and everything you could get your hands on, just hoard it. That's what these poor people have to do. And, I was watching on a show yesterday where a lady said that, families are allowed to go outside of their apartment like every 2 days, and you give someone a list and they can go out shopping for you, and you really better hope that they have it, because if they don't, and they come back, it's another 2 days without whatever you needed.
Yeah, so a family gets to choose one person to make the venture out and to see what they could find. Of course, there's less and less supplies all the time. They're on lockdown. You have more now than 25%. It's probably like about 30% of the population is on lockdown, maybe 28%, something along those lines. Lockdown. So there's no manufacturing. There's no, obviously, trade is shutting down. This is how a country dies, and if this goes on till, summer or something, I mean, what's going to be left? And more people I'm seeing in chat rooms, people talking about is this going to end up with half their population gone? I mean, the impact, and that's what I woke up with this morning telling Cindy, it was like that was part of the dreams I remember from last night, is like that type of scenario. Is it going to end up being something so dramatic? And, so many companies are shutting down their businesses. This is huge. But really what we're watching is the death of a system as well.
Mm-hmm. Um, hold on. Dan Pete says I live in Michigan, and they said they have a army base on standby in case it gets out of control here in the USA. Wow. I don't know if you have any links on that, or if you could email or tell us more on that.
Now, is that on standby where they're going to bring people to, or you mean like military and martial law, military on the streets, tanks rolling down the streets, that type of thing? That's my question there.
Mm-hmm.
Here you see coronavirus in Germany. Doctors warn and provide new insights into contagion. According to the study, 9 out of 10 Germans are not worried about this. Well, we'll see, we'll see. And the WHO warns of global shortage of coronavirus protective equipment to be expected. And, they obviously, as we said, they have been completely shortcoming. And if anybody should be looked at with, like, you guys really blew it, it would be the WHO. So this is the other thing that people are talking about. Where's President Xi? Where'd he go? Right. Where'd he go? And most are saying, he's down in some bunker. Since, there was rumors, lots of rumors, and original stats coming out showing that if you're, an Asian male 55 and older, you're one of the prime targets of this virus. So, some think that, he's basically hiding for his life in a hermetically sealed room deep underground in a bunker. And is that the case? And, at what point do the people that are getting pulled out of cars say enough's enough, and other people come to their aid and start to beat up the police? When they see enough people, like that poor young lady, who didn't appear to be any longer breathing, at some point, the Chinese Communist Party is going to be in big trouble.
Yeah, Jean Blair says, why isn't anyone talking about the survivors, or is that all a lie? We personally can't get a hold of any. The ones that we do see, they look like they're celebrating the biggest celebration of their life because they're out of the hospital. Concern is, like, are there any? I don't know. We're really wondering, and there's a lot of things going on that are being said, and the more I look at it and then I watch the information, follow the information, it turns out to be true. That's really concerning. That, if you just really put yourself in a space of, oh my God, this is happening, that's a scary thought. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Where are all the survival vids? There are some. You could find some on Twitter, and we could probably find some. It looked to me like a photo op from the 1950s. You ever see how the perfect American family was in the 1950s? And everybody's always smiling. It's just crazy stuff. It looked like total BS. Honestly.
It does. Yeah. I mean, there's just so much information coming out, and there's a lot of information to sift through, and using discernment, and, we comb through the information. Okay, here we go. Elderly Taiwan 73 survives her battle with coronavirus.
She gives the V for victory there.
Yes.
Here's another one. Bangkok coronavirus survivor speaks out. Thailand, too, as it says here, is a city considered most at risk, as they have 25 confirmed cases. So there's probably 10 times that, if not more.
Yeah. Here we go. I saw this thing on my Facebook that said a frighteningly large amount of people think that the coronavirus is related to corona beer.
Yeah, and that's unfortunately 4 more deaths due to the coronavirus. Oh, it's so sad. So here, these are like the type of photos I was talking about. Photo ops, everybody's smiling. 4-year-old Chinese girl treated in Malaysia for coronavirus, given the all clear to fly back home to China. I would think twice about that right now. Coming out of Malaysia, perhaps this is more real and more sincere. There you go. They have a t-shirt out. I survived the coronavirus pandemic. Wow. Yeah, people are always ready to make money on things like that. And here are some survivors, some shrimp. It's now they're blaming it on aardvarks. They were blaming it on bats, and then they don't know. It's because it's not naturally occurring. That's the whole point of this.
Yeah.
Chinese baby test positive 30 hours after birth, and Dr. Paul was saying on this that the baby could have caught it in the hospital. 41% of people in the hospital, they're catching it from the hospital. Mm-hmm. So more than 4 out of 10 are getting it from being in the hospital. The baby could have got it in the hospital. And so where is President Xi? We don't know, but President Trump was talking to him last night. And maybe President Xi said, hey, here's what they're blaming these little guys. They're kind of cute. A very rare close-up of a wild pangolin. And so, they're putting the blame on this cute little guy instead of some mad scientist working for, the governments. And this is another study. This one's from 2012, talking about a very similar thing to what we see ourselves in right now. And it talks all about a hypothetical event that happens, which happens to be almost exactly what we are seeing now again. So how many times do we see this? We've all seen that video, and I did a video on it like 10 days ago about the guy talking about the group of Freemasons that were discussing China catching a cough from 2010. So this is a study from 2012. Says again, the event begins in February, so a couple months off in Asia. But its dimensions significance is only recognized there a few weeks later in April, first identified, and they're calling it the Mode SARS case, occurs in Germany. And, it goes into the scenario as well. And, so obviously they've run the scenario multiple times.
Yeah, they've done dry runs, and it's like they almost have this perfected, which is really scary. So if they don't get it pushed through this time, by golly, I bet you they'll take notes where they went wrong and make sure it works next time. So, we really need to just be ready for it and be healthy, clean up our immune systems, clean up our diet, clean up our energy bodies, and just be ready, because if it's not now, it's going to be.
Yeah, definitely. China's Communist Party faces recriminations over virus. As, a lot of people were speaking up, especially about this doctor. He's kind of becoming a martyr there. And he might be the poster, the face on the poster that eventually leads to these people overthrowing the Communist Party. We'll see. And perhaps that's the whole point of the virus in the first place. That's what some have thought, that this was basically targeted there in order to get rid of China's Communist Party. And so we've talked about that. I know Dr. Paul Cantrell was talking about that as well. It's really a true possibility here. So we'll see. When fear turns to anger, then things really change.
Yeah, that's something that I've been kind of experiencing personally. Like when we do our kicks and stuff, I'm starting to throw a little anger behind it. And Michael says, I'm doing really good. He says, I'm kicking hard now, but with anger. It's fun.
Which is good. Yeah. She has a rear leg right roundhouse kick that I think could break ribs now. She would be amazed because 127 pounds or so can generate a decent amount of power. And once you get that technique down, and we practice our MMA every single day, so I mean maybe one day we don't, as far as our kicks and everything. And when you practice a lot of repetitions, it just becomes muscle memory, and then you just get better.
Yeah, so a little bit of anger directed in the right way can just do wonders. It can do a whole lot more good than it can do bad, as long as it's used properly. It's a really it can be a positive energy used in the right way, I think, in my humble opinion. That's just what I've noticed personally. So yeah, I mean, it would be good if things were straightened out here. I mean, while the death toll is just rising and rising and rising, I feel really horrible for the people, but I do hope that, I mean, if nothing else, positive change. I know we've all been through really horrible, horrible things in our lives, and the one good thing that could come out of it is positive change. And if you have positive change, that makes it all worth it.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see how this changes, and where people go with this, because their mindset's very different over in China than it is here. There's much more of a willingness, I think, to conform, and I think Americans on the whole believe very highly in individual freedoms. So, it's a different scenario. But when you push people too much and injustice is obvious, then, you end up with people, again, going and switching from that fear-based mentality into one of anger. And here this is out of the South China Morning Post, people singing, basically. And we talked about people, they're on lockdown, and you don't know how much food certain people have had. And, these are cities. These are mega cities. These cities, like the one that just went on lockdown now, is twice the size of New York City, which is, the U.S.'s most populous city. And, Wuhan and some of these other areas are 3 times the size. I mean, there's a lot of people densely packed in a small amount of space here. And, who knows how much food they have, who knows what their life looks like locked into tiny apartments, and as well. So a lot of people are you're faced with either going insane or finding some sort of way to vent.
Could you imagine, like, if the sewer system went out? Oh, no.
Yeah, I don't want to think about that either. They got enough that they're fighting there.
Yeah.
And there's another, but it's a real possibility. Again, I'm sure there's people in biosuits or as suited up as they can be working in public works. Mm-hmm. Everything that has to keep going, from the power companies on down, and even, the garbage men and things like that as well. And, this is another one where people are crying out or singing. Let's see if this one locked up on me there. It's just, it's mind-blowing. And obviously we can't exactly put ourselves in those shoes. I grew up about 30 miles from New York and would go by Co-op City. And I would always think, my God, I can never live in that type of scenario. Because there's just so many just massive apartment buildings, like right next to each other, jam-packed, like sardines. And that's what these cities are like. They're huge. They're just enormous. And, wow. I mean, it's definitely something that's going to test their mental endurance, at least.
Dan Pete says, I don't go out much anyway. I think I'm good. We rarely go out nowadays. And I think that's probably a good idea for right now while we're watching this unfold. Because like Michael put it perfectly a few days ago, he said it's like watching a huge train wreck in slow motion. And it is. So until we can see some of this behind us, I think we should just try to isolate as much as we can where we're at and use like really good hygiene things if we do have to go out, because we're still going to have to work. There's enough of us who have to go out into the world, into public, and deal with things, but use extra precaution, lots of hygiene, until we have at least some more pieces of the puzzle to look at.
I could be wrong, says the powers that be want high-rise cities for us all, Agenda 21. Yeah, we've seen that. They want to herd people into these small groups, and, we're out in relatively the middle of nowhere, but it's not far enough out for me, and I was just, wishing I had the ability to go get some serious acreage, which would be wonderful. I just love being out in nature, and I really do appreciate the desert far more than I used to, especially certain spots. It's just nice being out in that peace and that quiet, and whether it's surrounded by trees in the woods with furry creatures, I love that as well. I really enjoyed my time in the woods up in North Carolina, west of Asheville. It was wonderful and beautiful country, and I loved Mount Shasta area. We were up there before. Gorgeous country. Northern California is beautiful, and still am hoping and looking forward to being able to spend some time up in the Pacific Northwest and up into Canada as well. Although, like I told Cindy, I said, I've always felt that, the place that I was going to be when all this hit, I've had visions of it, would be in New Mexico. And I still think that's one of the best spots, as Sassy's having a nightmare there.
I think she's chasing a squirrel or trying to. She's so cute. It'll be nice, because I really like being out in the country. This little town is nice, and it's sweet, and it's serving its purpose, and it's wonderful, but I kind of want to be like more isolated, where we have more control of what rolls in and out of the property and in and out of the house. So we're kind of looking around, and it'll be fun. But I noticed that the trend is getting more and more, where more people are wanting to get out into nature, buy a little piece of land. I mean, that's getting popular.
And Elena says she lives in Waynesville, North Carolina, and I know that place very well, and so used to spend some time in Boojum's over there playing pool on Wednesday and Thursday nights sometimes. They'd have like live mic nights, and it was a lot of fun. And Waynesville is a great little town. Absolutely love that area. Yeah, Bigfoot is going to be pissed with all these people moving into the woods. Gotta say again, I mean, we're not in a position financially to really buy anything. And as we said, we're staying with family. So, there's only so much we could do, which is, basically stocking up with them and everything. But at the same time, I'm still looking at lots, and honestly, I still feel pulled towards New Mexico or Arizona in the more remote areas there as well. Definitely as far away from the cities as possible is where I want to be. And, I know Cindy feels the same. We've even talked about even like half jesting, anywhere up in maybe even southern Alaska if it wasn't so brutal. But Alaska does get warmer in these times. But yeah,
right.
Bigfoot,
right,
good cook, cave share, right? And Raven's had some run-ins with Bigfoot.
Yeah.
This is one of the things that surprised me talking to people when we got there in the North Carolina mountains. Awful lot of people didn't laugh about Bigfoot. They just believe that he's there, that there are these beings that are there. And that's a global thing as well. There's legends about that.
Yeah, I know when I was growing up in northern Idaho, we definitely had some strange creatures that would make the most horrific noises up on the mountain, and it was not a mountain lion. It wasn't anything like that. I mean, it was totally unidentifiable. And now I've seen YouTube channels where they can take these voices and they put them on the computer and they run them, and they can show that they're definitely not human. They're not mountain lion. They're not really sure where they come from, but we've had those too. very interesting. And yeah, he's going to be mad when his area starts getting popular, but maybe he would do a cave share.
Maybe. And yeah, lots of suggestions on places. It's I think, ultimately I'd still say that because we're in basically a semi-temporary situation right now. The thing that's beautiful is that, Cindy's family is here, so we could pull together with them. And there's aunts and there's uncles and there's cousins and there's, everything you can imagine. Tons of family here. And it is pretty remote, but I still feel like, long term, it's still most likely to be somewhere in either Arizona or New Mexico. And we got the camper. So if I can get, a few acres at some point in time, and then we just simply live out of the camper, live a little off grid, as long as I could upload videos, we'll be fine. And, bring whatever we start to grow, because we're starting a ton of things in pots right now. Lots of seedlings growing, and they're doing really, really well.
Hoodoo Dino, yeah, North Idaho, up by the border there, near Coeur d'Alene area. Beautiful, absolutely love it. God's country, nice and rugged, but it was so cold. But that's okay. It was cold when I was little, so yeah. So at some point we will, but. It's mostly, we wanted to do this before, but now that this virus is passing through, there's a little more of a urgency and a kick in the butt to want to get a little more remote. And because the numbers are going up, not down. I don't think things are going to get better. And if this wave passes and it's fairly mild, I don't think the next wave is going to be so mild. That's just my personal thoughts.
You will have to see what manifests, and a lot of people into Bigfoot, which I've always been drawn to the whole Bigfoot thing. And in the mountain that we were on in North Carolina, something whacked the back of the house on 3 separate occasions so loud that it sent me outside, with gun in hand to go check on what it was. And then in the morning, once there was a really deep humanoid footprint. And the ground was frozen. I mean, it was like 15 degrees, 10 degrees overnight, and solid. And I could jump up and down on the ground and not put any indent into it. And you could clearly see a bare naked humanoid footprint. I'd say probably size 14, 15, right there. But then we've seen humanoid footprints all over out here in the desert, and usually by a mining shaft.
Yeah, it's creepy. It's like, and they don't have 5 toes either. It's like 3 toes, and they're really long, and it is creepy. We've taken some pictures. We've done a few videos on it.
Yeah, we were in an area yesterday that Zeke didn't like, and Zeke's very sensitive to interdimensional beings and stuff. And there was times up there where he would not come out of the house. He would just look at you. I'd have the door open. I'd say, "Bye, Z, bye." And, normally he would come running right after me. He'd be like, I'm not going out, because he could sense something. Actually, we had more weird stuff up at that one location than I've experienced anywhere else. All sorts of stuff going on. It was just every single night there was stuff going on. But we have a lot here too. We experience things almost every day here as well.
Yeah. A lot of interdimensionals here, and I swear there's a portal in this house in the hallway.
So where we were yesterday was right by the, getting very close to the bombing area. We live right by the Nevada test site. And so locals were basically notified that there's going to be increased activity. And as I'm not sure. No, I didn't upload that video. We woke yesterday to three big bombs going off, and I was wondering if it was earthquakes, and I checked the USGS, didn't see anything. But then she checked with some of the locals, and yeah, they felt it too, and it was them dropping bombs. But right where we are, we're very close to like Area 51 and all that. And where we were yesterday, we were right up on the border of it. And there's lots of construction going on, over there as well. A lot of mining activity. The Anunnaki are still well at work with getting gold.
Yeah.
85% of Nevada is owned by the Bureau of Land Management. So 85% of the state is owned by the feds. And that's because there's so much here as far as minerals and gold, et cetera, et cetera. And still the earth is being drained of her resources for the Anunnaki. And I don't say that in jest, and their offspring.
Right. There's a lot going on here in the desert. I think sometimes, where we went yesterday, if we could have gotten to that big, long butte, it just feels like there would have been stuff that people have found that would be Egyptian. It just felt Egyptian. Like, I know they found Egyptian looking artifacts at the Grand Canyon. And if we could have gotten across the mountain range to that one place, I really think we would have found something. But there's a lot to be seen out here. And I don't know, maybe we'll make another video of those cheese rocks that we found yesterday, because I felt the portal when we were walking up, at like a big blast of energy coming from those cheese rocks. So there's interesting stuff here, a lot more than meets the regular two eyes.
Yeah, and so I know there was a comment out there saying, I thought that you lived in... Yeah, Country Girl says, I did live in North Carolina and came back with Cindy to Nevada to get to know her family, to meet her family. And, the intent was that we were going to try to find something and probably settle in New Mexico or Arizona. And we just held off because it just felt like we needed more of a time for me to get to know her family get to know me. And so that's what we've been doing, is basically living here. But it's not permanent, so we're going to end up, again, because of the volcanic activity, there's so much to take into effect. I'm not sure exactly where we're going to end up. Although in my meditations and my visions, my guides have constantly showed me New Mexico. So I think that is probably still the most likely. There is a part of me that would love to go to Costa Rica or even down into South America and get out of the country as well. But I know that's not too likely. So I think we're going to end up probably in New Mexico or Arizona. It'll depend on really what we could find. I did see some land that actually had a river going through it in New Mexico that was relatively cheap, and there was a few trees, and it looked like there was some relatively fertile soil that you could work with there as well. Jerry says, you'll become Diamond and Rex's neighbor. Yeah, they're up in Colorado, which I know is too cold for me, but yeah, the Hopi land, the Four Corners, well, that's what I saw. And this goes way back to being about 19, 20 years old, and I have Native American ancestry in me. And I saw what I took to be some of my ancestors. And I saw a vision of the Four Corners, but they were all standing in New Mexico, on the New Mexico side, but I could see the Four Corners. And then I had visions too of growing stuff in the West, and I had visions of the person that was going to be my partner, who now I recognize as Cindy. And so it all makes sense. Although I didn't see Nevada, we've been here in Nevada, and then we have friends in California. So mostly we've been in this area, but I still feel it's going to end up being New Mexico or Arizona eventually that we, there's one with Nature asks, what's the land cost? It's pretty cheap. And it's very cheap, relatively. Again, it all depends on where you're looking. So you could get really good land that's nice and fertile throughout, say, Mississippi and Alabama or Georgia as well. But I'm looking at the earth changes, and I'm looking at the flooding. My heart would love to be back in, Florida, South Carolina, in the South. I do love the South. And, you know, I just enjoy living in the South so much. And I spent so much time in South Carolina, in both Carolinas. And that does feel like home to me. And you could definitely grow things there. And the weather's really good. But, you know, I see the flooding going on. And the hurricanes that we've had have been so huge that I think it makes sense, because I'm seeing a lot of blossoming in the desert. And the desert's getting better. And I've talked at length with David Devine, you know, off camera, off video, just because, I mean, he is a wealth of knowledge. He has studied this stuff inside and out. And I feel, and he agrees, that this is a very good area. Arizona and New Mexico would be two of his top choices as well. Now, he has family over east, and so he's going to head east. And, you know, there are going to be challenges that we all face anywhere we go. The other thing for me, too, was I do think we're going to lose the grid at some point. I think that's inevitable. And when you look at how many nuclear power plants there are east of the Mississippi, there's a ton of them, a ton. So I would, you know, I feel like we should avoid that as well.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's a lot of options out there, you know, as far as being off the grid is concerned. I don't know, with the natives here, we have a museum, and it shows the natives that lived here, and somehow they survived in this heat. But I mean, I kind of want to be somewhere as comfortable as possible, but I don't want to be near all those nuclear things over there on the east. Those make me nervous.
I think that would be a good thing for me to do today or tomorrow, is to do another video on the pros and cons of different places, because, you know, this is something I've never stopped doing, and this is something that I personally research every day, because I'm still a little undecided. You know, there's no perfect place. That's the bottom line. There is no perfect place. If you guys remember Keith used to be a regular in the chat room as well, and he's moved on with his family to Costa Rica. So, and I do know others that have done that as well, because there are those that feel that war's heading for the U.S. And, you know, and again, I brought up, like I said before, this whole thing with China. It could be, you know, the first shots of a war going on. Ozarks, you know, is a safe zone. You're pretty close to the New Madrid as well. The Missouri River, the Mississippi River, the flooding's going to just get worse year after year. So those are things to take into account. When we made it over, man, the Mississippi was so high when we came over here. It was incredible, the flooding we saw. And very, very good friend of the family here that's in Texas, and he's invited us to go set up a community there with him, or stay indefinitely. And he's got 100 acres in Texas, but he's, I think, in an area that's going to be prone to strong storms and flooding as well. So, you know, it's one of those things. There's no perfect place. There is absolutely no perfect place. But I think you could find little pockets that are going to be good in different areas. And, you know, the North Carolina mountains are gorgeous. Absolutely love them. It's beautiful up that way. Same thing when you go towards Georgia. That was actually one of my favorite areas. Heading over towards northern Georgia, it was beautiful. So many beautiful spots. Going through Alabama, it's just a gorgeous state, and dirt cheap. You could get land there so cheap. And, you know, things are going to grow pretty easy. Soil's relatively rich, definitely compared to the desert. But again, every area is going to have its issues. Everyone will. And the one thing I don't want to be in is a really populated area.
Kelly says President Xi on telly now in Cambodia.
Oh, no kidding.
Wow, that's interesting. Well, you know, at least he showed up. Yeah, there's just so much going on right now. You know, preferably I'd much rather be isolated, just where we can control who comes in, who goes out, stuff like that. You know, right now we're just really fortunate to have family to hold on to, because of all the censorship. It hasn't been easy on the channel, pulling things up where they should be, because they do put as many stops as they can possibly find. They stop everywhere that they legally can. So, it's all going to be fun. Everything will unfold in due time. Things will take its course as they should. But this is kind of what's happening right now. It's see that yellow color?
Yeah. So, limited, confirmed. So you can't talk about the coronavirus. So, and this one I didn't even try to monetize. Confirmed. So all these live shows, they're basically not being monetized, and they're confirming it. So you cannot. They're basically telling you can't talk about it, but we have to talk about it, because people's lives are in danger here. So we need to share with each other. That's why we're in the position we're in right now, because we were on course to save money and get a piece of land, but then YouTube put the brakes on everything and made it so that we've averaged probably about 15 to 20% of what we used to make. So if we weren't living with family, we wouldn't be able to do this.
Right.
And that's the bottom line. We wouldn't be able to do this. We'd have to go and enter back into the normal world.
Yeah, no, live under a bridge first.
Yeah, so exactly, what we've decided is, it just makes sense that we'll hang with family for a bit until we know the spot, and we do have the trailer now to live out a long term, and then we'll just find the spot and hopefully be able to get a chunk of land somewhere and start to build something. And as I said before too, I still think the best structures are domes, and I still think earth bags are the way to go. So somewhere where you're allowed to build earth bag homes, because with the winds that we're seeing, that's going to keep increasing as well. And so we have to realize what we're facing here.
Raven says, let's do Bigfoot live, giant lore. Yeah, I would love to do Bigfoot live. When I was little, I used to go riding in the mountains up in Idaho. And now that I know what I know, I saw so many evidences of Bigfoot, the way that they lay the trees and, they pile things, stack things, do things a certain way. I didn't know back then what I was seeing, but I know now what I was seeing. And how they kind of set trees up and on themselves. It was just so odd, and how they can throw certain things across the trail that's saying, don't go this way. This is my territory. Looking back, I know that we had plenty up in those Idaho mountains, so it would be fun Bigfoot hunting again.
Yeah, most definitely. Rue says Arizona is very friendly towards off-grid living. Cochise County is the county I was zeroing in on before on the Arizona side, just because there's no restrictions, zero restrictions. And that's why we spent quite a bit of time down that way. And I think we both feel really comfortable around not living in Sierra Vista because it's a little bit too big, but on the outskirts. Sierra Vista, Tombstone, was it Benson and Douglas? That whole area, it felt pretty comfy to us. I think we liked it, like Tombstone, Sierra Vista.
Loved Tombstone, Sierra Vista. Super cozy, homie.
Yeah, we liked that area. So that's that. I would say southeastern Arizona to, just above that as well. But definitely eastern Arizona. Flagstaff is gorgeous. I loved Flagstaff. That felt so homey. But the land is super expensive. We're not going to be able to afford anything there that you could really live off of, from what I've seen. So, it's beautiful. Sedona's gorgeous. Flagstaff area is gorgeous. But a little bit more pricey. Probably too rich for our blood. And I'd still rather be even more remote, honestly. As far as Arizona, I would say Cochise County, and I forget what the county is just north of that one, or over the border into New Mexico, to the west of Alamogordo, I like Silver City area, and up into the Gillen National Forest area. That's nice too, and there's less than one person per square mile in that area.
That's what I'm looking at, scarcity. I don't want to be anywhere where it's like super populated because I'm energetically sensitive enough. I was in California for a little while, but the EMF there, the energetic stuff there almost killed me. And that's why I know our energy bodies are so sensitive. Yeah, I mean, the fewer energy things, the fewer people for me, the better, just because I absorb everything. I can feel everything. But yeah, I know life will turn something up. It'll be good.
Yeah, Hawaii Sparkle says no food in Arizona. There's food. Actually, most of the winter lettuce is way over in southwestern Arizona. It's grown there, or it's grown in California, in the desert. And we have tons of seeds, and so we'll be able to grow stuff on our own. And that's why I was looking at one property that had a river going through it. So then you have water. You certainly have solar and light, and we have solar on the rig, so that's a step up in the right direction as well.
Oh yeah, and somebody says peyote. Yeah, I've always been curious about that, along with ayahuasca and other things. Would be interesting. There's a lot of Native American things that can be done in the desert and that I want to study and learn. There's so much medicinal stuff out here in this sage. I mean, sage is so good for you. Our burros here, there was one time one of our burros was shot. I know it's just horrible. We have wild burros, and it was shot through the neck. And this little burro was, all healed up, patched up within a couple of months. And what he ate mostly was sage. So that should tell you something about how good the medicinal stuff is in sage out in the desert.
Yeah, and you'd be surprised, as far as the animals there. If you're looking at the Gila National Forest, you have deer and you have elk and you have all sorts of things, bears and wolves and coyotes and raccoons and you name it. So okay, yeah, Daisy's up in near Santa Fe. Santa Fe's gorgeous. And so, it's cold, but you say you're picking tomatoes right now. You must have a greenhouse or growing them inside, I would guess. There's a lot of things we can do, most definitely. Dig down into the earth and build greenhouses deeper down into the earth. And so that way they're cool enough in the summer and they're warm enough in the winter. There's so much. Yeah, sunroom, there you go. There's so, so much we could do and adapt to it. So, my friends, we're going to leave this one off right now. Thank you guys so much for being part of our family and being friends with us. We really appreciate it. We love you guys.
It's super fun. We love you guys tons.
So, as always, guys, keep preparing. Be ready for anything. And that includes spiritually as well. God bless and namaste.
Namaste.